utilize all the juice. But so there are still people that we're saying, I'm sorry we can't do it this year, call us earlier next year. But then the other great thing, and I'll talk to you guys more about it tomorrow, is that because we're in an agricultural area, we also have access to produce. And so we make flavors under lemons, we make a cucumber vodka, but we have access to produce that, again, that maybe is not commercially viable because it has a bruise on it and so people won't buy it. And so we take that from the local farmers here and they pick it at the height of the season. It's never trucked in from anywhere. It's you know, for cucumbers, for example, we get a shipment every week, and we literally get it from the county, we juice it, distill it within the same day, and so we're able to work with the local farmers to get it, because we're in ag land, so we have the access to it. So, and again, we get calls all the time from farmers. Hey, I have some extra Asian pears. Is there anything you can do with it? Or I have this and have that. And so that's the fun thing for us, is that we're able to collaborate with all the talent in the area.
And there's a lot of collaboration that goes on around here.
And we get, like, the basil for the drink comes from Bill over at Windrose Farms. And if you're ever around during the summer when he has his Chipotle Bloody Mary mix, it's probably the best Bloody Mary mix you've ever tried.
On the note of collaboration, just real quick, I want to share about the different folks that we have here. So Kelly Marie, she also gets produce from Windrose Farm, and she also uses the Groves on 41 olive oil, and so she brings together her agricultural besties and makes an amazing chocolate. And then with Jen and her olive oil, she's got some great infused flavors going on over there, and you guys will get to taste all of this when we loop back around. So we all really work together, and it's not about single sourcing, it's about working together and cross-promoting and collaborating, and that's really what Farmstead Ed is all about. Wheats is like that. The goats represent here. Cheese making, we have a cheese tour coming up where we'll be visiting different cheese dairy farms, and then also, and what we're about to migrate to, is how to grow your own salad bowl. And whether you live in the city, you live in the country, you have a farm, you have the opportunity to grow your own salad bowl. And so Farmer Bill and Tamara are going to talk to you a little bit about that, as well as there's Christy. And Christy is with Black Diamond Vermiculture, and she's going to talk to you more about dirt and how that's where it all starts, and putting the nutrients there. So anyway, that's just a little station pause as we transfer over to the
found Rancho dos Amantes, and we're a little out of Old Freeway, but a lot out of the Ordinary is our tagline. The reason that we moved up here was we wanted to really try to grow our own food, have our own goats, make our own cheese, use the milk. We have chickens, we use the eggs from the chickens. We butcher our chickens, and the whole Rancho dos Amantes came about when we decided, look, we really want to show other people this lifestyle. We want them to understand that they can incorporate just a little bit of this in the city to their lifestyle, and ripped all their landscaping out. They planted all edible landscaping. They have a chicken coop. They raise a hive of bees, and they have Nigerian dwarf goats that they milk. And we inspired them, so I feel like I've done something.
I love that.
Yes, they do have chickens.
You just can't have a rooster.
They do not have a rooster. And they can have 2 of the goats in the city. Yes, they have them. And so a couple that we had last weekend they were up here, they actually have put an offer on an 80-acre property out here. They're from Riverside. So I feel like at least I'm inspiring people, and that's why we decided to, have the guest houses. We have a commercial kitchen, which I'll show you. But let's take a walk down to the guest houses. We do a lot of community things here. We have people that help in the garden in the community, and they utilize what we have in the gardens. We trade with our neighbors goat milk and cheese for their lambs and their beef and their cow milk, and that's kind of what we do. But we want our guests to experience that and see that really they could incorporate a little bit of that into their life. So this is one of our guest houses. They love it. It's just a amazing kitchen, huh, Roxanne? Yes. Really is. It's a beautiful kitchen.
A lot of fun to work in.
Yeah.
Perfectly designed. Everything is fresh and open and easy to
Functional,
work
isn't it?
in.
It's like
Very,
airy.
so I love it. This is a great spot. It's one of my favorite spots.
So I wanted to tell you that
And there will be food on the
this is our
table.
Red Barn kitchen, and we encourage our guests to go into our gardens and orchards, our hen house, pick our produce, come into the kitchen and make a meal with it. And we usually have seasonal recipes for them. So it would be in the summer, you know, a quick tomato pepper pasta, or we also have our goat yogurt and goat milk available and goat cheese available for them to utilize also, and the eggs from our hen house. We do an amazing breakfast every morning that's included with the stay, and we serve it here in the Red Barn kitchen. So we also, our caterers, when they come to do a wedding here, they love this kitchen. They're just thrilled to be able to have this.
What's not to love?
So, yeah.
Awesome kitchen.
Yeah, for 28 hours. Lay an egg. Bill would know for sure. I know I don't get an egg every day as they get older. It depends too, I think, what they're eating. When the days are shorter, they don't lay in the winter. And we don't stimulate them by putting a light in the house. Or
choose some
like
chicken.
So for anybody that's not familiar with the chicken world, there's lots of challenges from Mother Nature,
Yes.
and I dare most of Mother Nature to get any of these chickens. I mean, this is an amazing.
All around the outside, we've put a little concrete so that if anything tries to dig.
So you've got a concrete.
The only thing we haven't finished is right here. But my husband built it, and he's very, like, I don't know, he's not an engineer, but he should have been an engineer.
Oh yeah.
They're really cute. Adorable. Come on, Mocha Moo. Come on, Mocha. Good girl, Mocha.
Look what a name you have.
Mocha Moo. So,
you are adorable.
these are Nubians, and they're you can tell they're Nubians by the long, droopy ears.
Yeah.
Their milk has a really high butter fat, so that's why I chose them. And I also chose them because they're so sweet. But I just attended the California Artisan Cheese Festival in Sonoma, and spent a lot of time with a cheese
What a shot.
maker that really has convinced me to diversify my herd a little with some other goats, some La Manchas and some Alpines, to get a different kind of milk. And I have a certain cheese I'm working on, and she thought it would really help. We do yogurt.
And
Sure.
then Christy's going to talk about.
Soil, and then we'll talk about plant.
Right.
That's it. Well, obviously, climate, sun angle. We're in the part of the world which is called mid hour. In other words, the tip of the Earth here isn't as impactful as it is in the northern latitudes, where you have sun for 18 hours, and then in the winter for 6 or 8 hours. Here we have sun. We only vary maybe 2 or 3 hours in any day. The bacteria and fungi to its roots to attract other microorganisms, who in turn has a waste product will have the nutrient that plant needs for its life. Trees and plants don't get up like you and I and walk out around and find something else to eat. They have to create their entire future in one place. And so it is not chemical per se. It's not something you can pour out a bottle. The Miracle-Gro guy hasn't been going out every in the morning at the Sierra Redwoods and dumping Miracle-Gro under those trees. That depends on that same exact phenomena that I'm describing in the soil is in us. And so it isn't chemicals per se. You can't nicely isolate it as, oh, these NP and K, that's as if to say the rest of your meals for the rest of your life is going to be McDonald's hamburger, fries, and a coat. That's what you're feeding plants with NP and K. Without the complexity that goes into it, the nutrients that we actually evolved requiring are not in existence in the food we eat. There's a lot of bad things in the food we eat, tragically, and our health system is starting to replace that.
Another subject, but if you want to live a long, healthy life, you want to have food that comes right fresh from a soil that's alive, and that's what that's about. But so you look for sun angle sometimes. So you're going to be planting later tomatoes, some perennial herbs, some fresh herbs, and so forth in a couple of these beds, just sort of a quick demonstration. But you pick those. Yes, sir.
Don't you have the same chemicals in this soil, just way less?
No, it's not chemicals.
We have
It is organisms that transmit and also create chemicals. It's a great question
And
because
leave out of
a lot of yes. Well, if you want to eat NP and K, those three things were defined by the same man that is responsible for
Potassium, phosphorus, and nitrogen.
That's right, and you can get those chemicals out of natural gas. The big plant that blew up in Smith, Texas a few years ago, one side was making anhydrous ammonia and chemical fertilizer, the other side was making bombs. It's a beautiful fusion of a natural resource that may or may not be a good thing in the big picture long term. No, think of the Sierra redwood that germinated in a crag of granite in the middle of a very, very rocky terrain. It's lived for 2,000 years. It weighs umpteen thousands of tons. Where did the energy come from?
In the sun.
No. Going. Because you're taking them out of a bag where they've been sort of static without being fed, and now you're putting them back in the ground. Nice big handful, you know, and have fun with it.
What's the rest of the dirt in the plan? Is it
Well, this would...
It is. We have compost, but I'm learning so much more of how inadequate my soil has been from Chrissy. But it is compost.
The point is, you're going to pick places where the sun is the appropriate for what you want to grow.
Complex, very simple system that is self-sustaining for a season. So picking is having to understand the nature of the particular kind of plant you want to grow. Is it going to be a root vegetable, beets, carrots, and so forth? It's going to need a certain depth of soil and a certain friability of soil. Christy will help you understand how worms make great friable soil. And see, I didn't use that other D word.
Things with tomatoes is because tomatoes like calcium. And worm castings contain 50% more calcium after it goes through the worm's intestines than the soil around it.
Tomatoes on your salad all the time. You're not trying a persimmon on your salad in December. You're eating, it's just...
Or orange pieces, or all the other winter fruits. And you know, worst case scenario, about the only thing I can say that's great to add to salads and even other dishes is things like raisins and like that are preserved, that are just dried well, they used to be dried in the sun. They actually used to do that in California, but now we use natural gas. But that's another. It's just still a natural product. Yeah, some people do.
Some people...
To dry grapes? Is that what you said?
Yeah, to make raisins.
Oh, to make raisins.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, you know, cost.
Yeah.
When you eat in the season, it's way more economical than eating, you know, raspberries when they're not in season. You can get them. They've been shipped over from Mexico or on a freighter, you know, but it's
Do they
just so
grow
important.
The grapes for raisins here in this area too, or?
No, because they grew in the Central Valley.
Dirt's everywhere.
Amazing commodities and these amazing resources right here locally that so many people didn't know about, and that's kind of what started Farmstead Ed. So I have some very special friends that I would get excited about giving their products as gifts and using them myself, but people would say, hey Lynette, where did you get that really great lettuce that you used on your salad? And oh, I got it at Windrow's. Well, where's that? And it was just amazing to me that people didn't know where Windrow's Farm was. And so as I started to look into it, it was amazing to me how many people, both locally and out of the area, didn't know how many jewels we had here, and this is one of them right here, Rancho dos Amantes. You'll be visiting Windrow's farm this evening, which is another jewel. Kind of collected my friends and friends of friends and said, hey, there are some people here growing some really great things, making some really great products, and it's real food and it's honest food. And that's what Tamara's program here is about. That's what Windrow's is about. And that's why we want to get people to the farms, because a lot of people that come to this area have never been on a farm before, or they don't know that their food actually comes from here versus Alfreda, as well as to say, an old-time grocery store. So anyway, that's my personal mission with Farmstead Ed, is to make these introductions to people, to the purveyors, to the producers, to the growers, and celebrate all the awesomeness that we have here in this county. And on that note, whether you're planting a garden on, because we had this class out at Windrow's last year, a friend of mine from Santa Ana came up and he has a full garden growing on his balcony of his loft. Okay?
Well, science is fun, and that really is part of the reason that I got into vermicomposting. But when you start with trying to figure out what you're going to grow, you really have to start with the dirt. So what we do is have to first understand that, like us, and Bill touched on this, all plants need three things, the same thing that we need. They need air, they need food, and they need water. So black diamond vermicompost, and if you'll come over here, here's your first introduction to getting dirty. This is black diamond vermicompost, and you can pull a handful out of that, just sprinkle it on the ground.
So fluffy.
It's moist, it's full of life, it's local, and it's fresh. So we start with food for the soil, and when you feed the soil feeds the plant. So what we do at Black Diamond Vermicompost, and I'm so hoping that you all write about it, because your readers would love to be able to experience something maybe a little bit different than a wine tasting room and other things that we have really, really in abundance around here. But a worm farm is a very unique experience. So I hope you'll invite people to come out to Black Diamond Vermicompost. But if you'll get your hand in there and understand that in that you're holding is millions and millions and millions of microorganisms. They're all invisible. And like Bill said, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, beneficial nematodes, all the stuff we learned in high school need to be present in the soil to make healthy plants grow and thrive.
Special type of worm, because there's a whole bunch of them.
You know, you're
talk
right.
about
There's over
earthworms?
4,000 kinds of worms.
Yeah.
And the worms that we use are one specific variety or species. And we, as Alex and Madonna said earlier about recycling and taking care of some waste products, we feed our worms approximately 2 tons of food a week. And it's pre-treated and it's dairy cow manure. So we're relieving some other areas of some waste management products that they need to deal with, and treat it, feed it to our worms, and they make this wonderful, wonderful soil.
In the fall when we have excess and lots of heirloom tomatoes. And here's another little, I'm going to pull this out, not to traumatize the plant. I was talking earlier, above each leaf on a tomato plant, you'll see just a microscopic beginning. That's a branch. First month and a half, you want to reach in and pinch off branches, because they'll come out and fall on the ground and get disease. You want a nice, particularly in a multi-stage planting like this, where it's not just all tomatoes, it's going to be some other low-profile things. You want this to be a really stalk, capable of carrying a load of tomatoes, and I want to see it solid up here. You leave the leaf, it'll atrophy and die off after it's done all of its photosynthesis, but you don't want the branch to take energy away from going vertical, having the apical dominant meristematic tissue. That's my. Took me 3 times to get through botany, to tell you the truth, and that was the one thing I did learn. Anyway, you want to have a strong plant that isn't going to be sagging to the weight of the fruit. When you've got a 1-pound fruit, and what this is called a, it's an indeterminate
tomato. There are determinate tomatoes, mostly sauce and processing, which tend to have a big flush of fruit and produce one major flush of fruit that tend to be ripened at the same time. Now the commercial tomato growers have continued to hybridize and now genetically engineered just for that function, so they can run through with machines and harvest 100% of tomatoes at one time. What this is, they harvest in a set will be lower and lower truss, and later. And the Japanese, who are really anal about growing tomatoes, will pull off the first set of tomatoes when they're just got a blush of red, because they don't want more energy going into finishing it to a full ripe. They want the energy to go back to the plant. They won't strip tomatoes, but they'll take them when they're big enough and then they'll just ripen them in the sun in the house. But that's a hyper way of managing tomatoes. But
Your accent's not the same as hers was, but. Okay, all right.
And then I lived in the Dallas.
Awesome. Well, we're going to invite you to mix and mingle with the vendors up here. We've got chocolate and olive oil tasting over on your left. And shortly there will be another really unique and interesting beverage from Refine to try.
Is it possible to get some water?
Yes, we will get some water, definitely.
I mean, they're down to the
We have
point
lunch
of
for
saying,
you too.
Yes,
it's
grab
not
one.
native,
Yep.
it's going to be Hillary.
Sitting down for lunch.
That's great. The train ride. We did, yeah. We did.
Okay, girls. There we go. Look for dressing. If I missed anything, you guys, please.
It is so magnificent, Roxanne.
Thank you. Look if I missed anything. You do the double checks.
Totally be around. The parameters are very large, so you don't know. You're gonna. The thing that speaks to what you say is what we are. We're extremely diversified. We always have been. When you're diversified, you're not. Your eggs are not in one basket. So one or two or three things may hurt or 10 or 20 don't. But if you have that many things, then you're going to survive. If you grow one thing, fine dining.